In this episode, we talk about normal sleeping patterns, how to boost your brain, and I'm going to talk about the breasts. This is the Ask Dr. Daniel DC show. Emily asks, how can I get better sleep and how much should I be getting to be healthy? Now, Emily, to answer this question, we really have to look back in our history, so we have to look at our ancestral sleep patterns. While we do not yet fully understand all the functions of sleep, scientifically speaking, we do know that it is a critical role for normal physiology and therefore our health. The amount of sleep and timing, such as frequency during the day, really depend on specific living conditions. So kind of like I speak about eating to live or eating out of necessity, I feel the same is true with sleep. If you have a very laborious job or you're a construction worker, then obviously you should be taking some naps during the day to recover more. But if you're not working that much, then you're not going to need as many naps, right? So it really just depends. Now, humans should sleep about 1/3 of the day, with the longest part of that consolidated episode during the night. Now, the change in lifestyle from hunter-gatherers to agricultural communities to now densely populated industrialized cities has certainly affected our sleep pattern. And all of it really comes down to altered exposure to the natural light-dark cycle that our brain is hardwired for. This includes the wide availability of electric light, exposure to daylight within buildings, and evening use of light-emitting devices, much like the device you're probably using to watch this video. So your cell phones, your smartphones, your tablets, your iPads, the LCD screens on your laptops, as well as your TVs, all of which decrease the strength of natural light-dark cues or signals that entrain circadian systems or our biological clocks. Now, because we have no way of measuring how our ancestors slept, we have to use data obtained from modern hunter-gatherer-like societies. Now, the good news is that a team of researchers is actually currently doing that, and they really go out and study people who live traditional lifestyles like hunter-gatherers. These people include the Hadza and the San hunter-gatherers from Tanzania and Namibia, as well as the Simane hunter-farmers from Bolivia. Now, these researchers, their data, it reveals that these groups of people all sleep nightly for blocks of about 7 to 8.5 hours. And they spend at least 6 to 7 of those hours soundly asleep. And that's really no more than Westerners get. So a lot of times you'll hear of people here in this country saying that we just don't get enough sleep and we don't have enough time. But actually what the current research suggests is that these modern hunter-gatherers actually get slightly less. So they don't go to sleep when it gets dark. That's another thing. Instead, they nod off about 2 to 3 hours after sunset, well after it becomes pitch black outside. And they also found that they nap infrequently. So the researchers, they scored naps as periods of daytime inactivity that lasted for at least 15 minutes. And based on these lenient criteria, the researchers found that these hunter-gatherers napped on average just between 7 and 22% of the time, 22% in the summer months, which would probably be because of the higher temperatures. Now, the hunter-gatherers also slept continuously, so this is important to understand. They toss and turn just like we do, or like everyone else does, but they almost never wake up for a concerted time in the middle of the night. Now, what's interesting about the three groups of people studied is that insomnia, a common affliction of Western society, is almost non-existent in the three groups. So neither the San or the Simane or the Hadza even have a word for insomnia in their language. So the question is why? Well, current research points to 3 clues. First of all, these groups of hunter-gatherers, they wake up before sunrise, which is in stark contrast to Westerners who typically wake up when it's already light outside. Once up, the volunteers got most of their light at around 9 all the way up to 11. So between 9 and 11 seemed to be the best time to be outside. And in the middle of the day, when the sun was at its strongest, they started to head for shade. Now, this might also explain why people with seasonal affective disorder respond well to bright light, especially in the early morning. Basically, we have lost this light exposure by living indoors the way that we do. Second, the volunteers woke up at virtually the same time every single day, regardless of the day of the week. as opposed to westernized countries or here in the US where, typically people will have a schedule of Monday through Friday. They'll get up at a certain time, and then Saturday and Sunday they switch it up. And it's also different in terms of going to sleep. But these hunter-gatherers, if they get up at 7 a.m. today, they're going to get up at 7 a.m. tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So the day-to-day variability is almost zero in these societies. Again, this is usually medical advice that's given to people with insomnia. So as a physician, I'd tell somebody who has insomnia or sleep struggles that no matter how much sleep that they've had or haven't had, they should always try to get up at the same time. Third, all three groups were also strongly affected by falling temperatures, much more than even falling light. Now, they start to sleep at night as the night cools, and then they'll start to wake up at its coldest point, which would be about 4 or 5 in the morning. This suggests that temperature is a very strong and evolutionarily old signal that gets integrated into deep sleep regulating systems of the brain. This temperature rhythm has been reduced or almost completely eliminated for most of us because of our shelters, our homes, and our internal heating and air conditioning systems. So in closing, if you're interested in trying to improve your sleep, I think that these 3 things are important. Declining temperature in the evenings, so set your thermostat lower in the evenings. Getting up at the same time every single day, and I'm going to ask that you try to get up before sunlight comes out. And then also exposing yourself to lots of light in the morning, preferably 9 to 11 a.m. And if you do those 3 things, that just might be the key to sound sleep. Okay, on to question number 2. Robert is asking, what can I do to boost my brain? Now, Robert, that is a great question. Why? Because the brain is the most powerful organ of the human body. It controls over tens of billions of cells all at the same time. It tells your heart how to beat. It tells your lungs how to breathe. It digests the food that you ate this morning and turns it into new cells every single moment, and you don't have to think about it at all. It sends healing messages throughout your entire body, and it is where health truly comes from. Now, the brain is remarkable, and it's the main organ that we should actually be caring for daily, yet it's the most ignored organ when it comes to health. So what exactly do we need to be doing to boost brain activity? Well, the most important nutrient for your brain is going to be movement. If you're interested in boosting the brain, then you really need to be thinking about movement as a nutrient. All the cutting edge research in brain development and health today points to a compound called BDNF. BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor, is a protein that promotes brain function and encourages the growth of new neurons. This is called neurogenesis. So literally, movement helps to increase the number of cells that your brain can actually produce. It's basically like gas in the engine of the brain. And when you're running on empty, the right kind of movement can trigger the production of more fuel, or in this case, BDNF. Now, Jack Nolte, author of many medical anatomy and physiology textbooks, as well as Eric Kandel, winner of the Nobel Prize in Medicine for work in neurobiology, they both agree that 90% of the energy that your brain requires to function properly comes from movement. And that specific movement is called afferent stimulation. Now, afferent stimulation mainly comes from movement of the spine. So you have these tiny sensors or nerve receptors along your spine that signal afferent information or send afferent information up into the brain. So when you're moving, when you run, when you jump, leap, squat, sprint, jog, when you lift weights, when you dance, when you have sex, at least I hope you're moving when you're having sex. If not, you're doing it wrong. Then you're sending afferent information to the brain. So then it can do its job. And this is why it's so important to have a healthy spine. To not sit all day long, but to walk, to move, to optimize spine health and alignment is really the first step towards having a healthy brain. The next thing you need to consider is water. Water is not simply important for hydration, but because it acts as a conductive medium for cell-to-cell signaling, water allows for better electrical signaling between your nerve cells. So make sure that you're staying hydrated because it's that important for your brain. Now, I'm sure you are more interested in brain-boosting foods or nutrients, but before I share what foods and nutrients you should be focusing on, let's talk for a minute about starvation. We've all heard the saying, you are what you eat. This is because research suggests that our diet plays a role in neurogenesis, or brain cell development. But we have also recently discovered that you are when you don't eat as well, meaning dietary restriction or fasting has been shown to result in an increase in BDNF. In fact, Researchers show that fasting is helpful for neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, MS, Huntington's disease, various types of cancers, and even increasing lifespan of the terminally ill animals by up to 50%. The problem with fasting, though, or dietary restriction, is that you also run the risk of malnutrition. So only do this with the guidance of a health professional or someone who knows what they're doing. On to specific brain foods. First, let's talk about fats. The brain is over 60% fat, and the majority of it consists of fats like omega-3s, which is why fish oil is so important for your diet. It's also the reason why we should consume supplements like omega-3s, coconut oil, or MCTs, or medium chain triglycerides. Then there's also something such as antioxidants. So antioxidants like flavonoids, which you can get from cherries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, and bright colored peppers. So your red peppers, your green peppers, your yellow peppers, these are all very important. We can also talk about vitamin E, which we know is extremely important for BDNF. Vitamin E can be found in nuts, in green leafy vegetables like spinach and kale, and then more recently curcumin, which is a compound found in turmeric or yellow spices, has also been shown to spike BDNF. As a side note, be very, very careful when you're picking your supplements though. Not all are created equally, and in most cases, they're synthetic and you're really not getting what they claim that you are. Final question, Jenny. Jenny asked, is it normal to have one breast larger than the other? First of all, I'm certainly no expert when it comes to breasts, except for my wife's. But I have to applaud you for being breast aware. So Jenny, good job. As a physician, I know that it's extremely important because being breast aware means that you really know your breasts normally look and you know how they feel and how they change from month to month or from week to week. The best way to be checking your breasts is in the shower or in the bath because it's easier to notice these changes if you run a wet soapy hand over each one of your breasts or over your chest and under your arm because it's easier for you to notice if there's a change. And if you do notice that there's a change and it's something that worries you or you know that it's different from normal, then you need to discuss this with your GP or your practice nurse. That said, it's actually quite common for women to have different sized breasts, even up to 1 cup size different between left and right. So very few women have completely symmetrical breasts. If one breast though suddenly gets bigger than the other, it could signal a problem such as an infection, cyst, a fibroid, or in some cases even cancer. So again, if you notice something like that, then I would highly recommend that you seek out the guidance of your doctor or your nurse practitioner or another health professional. Hope that answers your question. Have a great day. Don't bring your breasts to me because I'm a chiropractor and I'm not going to check them for you. Okay, that does it for episode number 7 of the Ask Dr. Daniel DC show. I hope you guys are enjoying the information. I've got a lot of questions that I've received already, and I'm so happy to be making these videos, and we're going to be putting them out as fast as we can. I took a break the last week as I had a mini vacation, so hopefully over the next 2 or 3 weeks you're going to see a lot more videos coming out. If you haven't done so, please friend me on Facebook at /Dr. Daniel DC. You can also find me on Twitter at Ask Dr. Daniel DC. If you have questions, use the hashtag Ask Dr. Daniel DC. You can follow me on Instagram at Dr. Daniel DC. And for those of you that are snapping, if you're on Snapchat, look me up. My username is Dr. Daniel DC. I hope you guys are enjoying the information. We'll see you on the next one.